Are you guys ready for me to start? I'm ready to start. And I know that I kind of stopped the countdown timer a minute or so, not a minute, like 36 seconds faster than I should have, but I wanted to come on and start the show. So it's super exciting to be here today. And I am in my studio, which means I have my super fun buttons that I can play with. And I can say hello and send you all love and have them jump down the screen like that, which is always really fun. And I today wanted to be able to talk about my favorite topic, which is art supplies. So I'm not sure that all of the tech is exactly working the way I expected to, but I am going to go to my website, which I always like to do. And I'm thinking that when I go here, that is actually going to then, what happens if I do that? No, then it closes it down. It closes it down. So let's see, let me do that again. I'm always like playing with my tech because, you know, I'm still learning how all this works. So I think maybe if this guy, where'd he go? All right. So let's see, you are not seeing anything on my screen, so I think I need to then do this. So I'm not sure why I have two of them. In any event, it's fine. I guess what I could potentially do is, I wonder if I can take it from here to make it bigger. I can. Here we go. What I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to sort of hide what's in the background because it's kind of doubled up in there. Let me see if then I can come here and do the same thing so that I am repositioning the thing that's in the background that's actually not really supposed to be there. So there we go. You can see me. Awesome. And I'm going to close this little comment from my sweet friend. Can I close this? Hold on. All right. So Pauline Riley's comment is up there, and that's okay because she and I were talking earlier about okay, so now what's going on with my cursor? Something weird's going on with my cursor. So let me come back on screen and see if I can then figure that out. And if I go back here now, you guys can see me. And do I have a normal cursor now? I don't have a normal cursor. We're going to come to here. And we're going to go to AnnaFollettEart.com. Right? We're going to go to AnnaFollettEart.com. There we go. Okay, so now it seems to be kind of working, I think. All right, so here I am, and there I am. I'm also right over there, right over there. And this week's blog is all about my favorite art supplies. So if you click on blog here in the upper right-hand corner, and it should work, but let's see if it's not going to work. So hilarious. Let me go back to, you guys know that on Tuesday mornings, I write a blog. And the super fun thing about my blog is that, why is it not allowing me to do that? So I'll come back on screen and I'll go in here by myself and see if I can make this work. In my blog that I send out to you guys on Tuesday morning, right? Because I always send it out to you on Tuesday morning if you're on my email list. And the great thing about it is that you don't have to read it right away. You can put it sort of into a folder. I always love to recommend that you kind of drag it into sort of the Anna Follett folder that you have on your computer so that you can always go back to it later and read it if you didn't have a chance to read it yesterday. But you can also always go on Tuesday mornings at 7 a.m. Pacific time, which is 7, 8, 9, 10 on the East Coast. You can go to AnnaFollettEart.com, and then once you are actually there, you can go to, let's see if I bring this back over here. You can, this is the program. Do you see it? I'm gonna see whether, I guess I can't really do that, huh? on my website, which you can see right there, it says annaLaFolletteArt.com at the top in the URL bar, in the search bar, you can scroll down. And I want to make sure that you guys all know that when I covered this topic in my blog yesterday, there's a downloadable guide. And it is called My Favorite Art Supplies. And you can basically navigate here and then click this download here button. And that will allow you to get the full list of all the fabulous art supplies that I talked about in the blog. And if we go to blog, that will also take me to the actual blog page. And then when you scroll down here, you're going to see that this was, where can I scroll? Can I scroll over here? I think I can scroll here. There's something funky that's happening in the computer right now, but that's okay. There you go. You can see that. And that actually takes you to the blog page, and you can scroll down. And this is obviously the most recent one, is the one that's on the left-hand side of the page. And then you go back, as I've been writing a blog for weeks and years, every single week for years, is what I wanted to say. Okay, so then I think that the actual URL for the blog, since I'm having trouble getting to where I kind of want to be clicking, is, let me come back on screen and I can do this while I can do this in the background, is hold on one second. Don't want to finish the broadcast because I'm not done. But I wanted to play with the supplies. And while we're doing this, I wanted to find out from you guys, like, what are your favorite supplies yourself? Like, which supplies do you actually really, really love? And because we can go then to what I wrote about, and it's going to be so fun because if I can get this actually to work properly, we can, you can see that embedded, here it is, this is the actual blog post and the actual blog, and Pauline has put the URL for the supply guide, for my favorite art supply guide, which is great. Thank you, Pauline. And I wonder if I come over here. I think I probably should have rebooted my computer, but I wanted to make sure that you guys saw how fun. I included a bunch of really, really fun sort of pictures. First of all, pictures of my blog, which you can see there. And then I also include, not of my blog, of all my favorite art supplies. And then if you scroll down further, first of all, there are a bunch of places where you can click links. But then I also had there's more animation in this blog post than I normally provide, right? So this is actually showing you like one of the favorite pieces of art that I have made of all time. And it's using a combination of that Yupo paper that I described to you that has a really slick surface and my watercolors, but I also used pencil. So for that particular drawing, which is right behind me as well, do you see my cute little, I have two versions of this really great, here, let me come back on screen. So it's behind me here as well, that ostrich. So I did this really fun class with Carla Sondheim, and this was one of the things she was teaching us how to do, was how to use Yupo paper with watercolor and also with graphite, with pencil to kind of finish things off. And so I'm showing you a cute little animation of my I did two ostriches. One of them has a hat, so the one behind me is actually the one that has the hat, and the one that you see in the picture, there's another one that just basically just has a couple little widths of hair. But if you can see in the image that as it scrolls by on screen, you can see that on the legs are actually all in graphite. I just used paper. I just used a pencil rather on the Yupo paper. And I think it came out really great. And one of the things you might notice on there is that the watercolor moves around on the paper in a really unconventional way. And what I mean by that is that it kind of takes on a life of its own. And you can pick the paper up and kind of move it around a little bit to kind of get some of those harder edges that you see in the pictures. And it's really, really fun. It's really fun to play with, and you get some really interesting results. And then when you're done with the actual watercolor part, you can then add the graphite pencil to add a little bit more definition, or to add, you notice I put a little, some additional lines in the tail feathers. And anyway, so Yupo paper is a really, really fun new art supply to play with if you have never used it before. So then if I scroll down a little bit more, this was another example of work that I created in this class that I took with Carla Sondheim. And you can't really tell on that image that well, but there's some watercolor on there. And so let me tell you the different techniques that I used, right? So there are a bunch of different techniques. One of them is, it's on watercolor paper. That's the first thing. Then the second thing is I use a credit card. So you got to tell me in the comments if you've ever tried this. You put watercolor along the top edge of the paper. Can you see here? Can you see my cursor where I'm going here along the top? So you put sort of some drips of watercolor here, and then you take a credit card, like an old credit card, and you scrape downwards. So these long, can you see those where I'm showing you with my cursor? Tell me in the comments if you can see where my cursor is. Over there. You scrape down and you get these really cool, sort of the gradations of color kind of mixed together. You get a really, really cool effect. And then I used a black ink to draw my daisies, right? My sort of artificial daisies. But what's hard to see in the picture, and I couldn't find the original artwork. I have to find it. It's probably, see all these fabulous drawers? I have all these fabulous drawers. No doubt that original piece of art is in these drawers somewhere, but I haven't had a chance to find it. But what's really fun about it is that that's Japanese rice paper. So I cut out Japanese rice paper, and then you basically attach it. I don't think I used any glue. I think it basically just will stick to the watercolor when the watercolor is still wet. And then you can do some additional work on top of it with graphite pencil if you want to. So another really, really fun thing to play with, right? Very quirky. And gives you sort of interesting results that you might not otherwise get, which of course I really love. Okay, so then if I scroll down further in the blog, I wanted to also play this super fun animation. So let's see if this is... So it's only like 35 seconds long. It's really, really short, but isn't that fun? So let me tell you how I did that, because I think you will have a blast doing this. And there's so many benefits to this type of an art exercise. So in addition to the fact I'm using different art supplies for each of these examples, I'm also showing you like some kind of cool techniques to continue to just work on your drawing skills, right? And also let me know in the comments if you could hear the music, or did it just look completely random that I was like dancing? When I clicked to play the video, could you actually see and can you hear? Oh, so you know what? I don't even think you guys can see me. Right? I don't think that when I'm looking at my camera, so now let's see. So you probably couldn't even see what I was doing, right? So let's see. So could you guys see this when I was talking about it? I'm trying to get myself organized here. You could hear the music. Okay, so what I've done is I've gone back up to the very top. So here is the little animation that I was describing that has the, hold on, I don't want to do that. I want to... Anyway, the system is glitching, but that's okay. You know, technology, what are you going to do? So you can see there, I don't know why there's the big, huge white on the side of it. That's what I was trying to address, but whatever, it's fine. So those are my ostriches. And so what I was describing is that the ostriches are watercolor on Yupo paper. And Yupo, we can see it now. Okay, cool. So this technique, and I don't know if you can see behind me, I also have a really big blown up version of this ostrich because I love the ostrich that has the hat. The technique here is watercolor on Yupo paper, and Yupo paper is slick. And so when you put the watercolor on it, it kind of moves around in really unexpected ways, which is really fun to play with. And then you can see that I also added graphite. So I used a pencil for the legs, and I used a pencil for a little bit more of the definition around the face, and also for some of the tail feathers, right? So that is was the first kind of thing I wanted to show you. Then if I scroll down, this is the other thing I was trying to describe, where I'm using watercolor paper. But then those streaks, do you see where it's kind of streaky? The streakiness comes from putting watercolor down on your paper and taking a credit card and scraping downwards. And when you scrape downwards, you get this really pretty effect, right? You can see here where these lines are on the paper that go downwards like that. That's what you get from scraping the watercolor with a credit card or with an old credit card or something with a really sharp edge. And then I did the daisies in an ink as well. And then I also let them, I sort of pulled the paper up so I let them kind of get a little streaky. And then the last thing that I was describing was, for this image, was, you can't really tell, but I also added some Japanese rice paper. And so there's Japanese rice paper that I cut out into small circles and then put on top of these flowers on the top. And so that it makes them a little bit opaque looking, because the Japanese rice paper is opaque. Anyway, super fun. So all the supplies that I used are listed in the blog down here, down below. And then this was where I was dancing. So you couldn't see this animation, but this is a really cute animation where I am using tracing paper. And so I have a pad of tracing paper, and I wanted to get better at drawing apples. And so the purpose of the exercise was I wanted to draw a whole bunch of apples. But I was also learning about animation. And so I figured, well, I will do all these different drawings, and then I'll create an animation around it, which is what I then also embedded here in the blog. And so I think that if I hit play, now you can see it while the music is playing. So, okay, tell me in the comments if you could see that and hear the music at the same time, so that we're now totally in sync. Yeah, so Judy, I see your comment. It is super fun. It's like super fun. So there's so many benefits to doing an exercise like this. The first is you don't have to create an animation, but you can use the Yupo paper to kind of draw an apple, and then when you can do sort of, you can start in reverse in terms of starting at the bottom of your pad of tracing paper. And so you draw your first apple, and then you bring another page down, and then you draw again, so you can sort of see through your tracing paper what your original looked like, and then you can do a slightly different version. And you can also tell in the animation that I'm using a little bit of a variety of pens. So I have like all these art supplies. I had a ton of art supplies behind me, and one of the things I love to do is to use a pen that has a nib size, that has all kinds of different nib sizes, right? So there's some packs that I talk about in the blog that you can go get, where you can get a pack of 11 of these black, really black pens, and then some of them are going to have a fatter line, and some of them are going to have a skinnier line. And so it's really fun. And so the animation part is partially the apples, but then I have all the pens off to the side. And so when the pens are scrolling across the screen in the animation, those are all the different types of pens I used for the different versions of the apple. And what's great about it is that I kind of like all of them. They're all a little bit different, but I absolutely think they're kind of fun. And so anyway, I thought that I would share that too, this is a little less boring than just like a list of my favorite art supplies. It's like, why are they my favorites? How do I use them? How might you want to use them as well, and experiment and try something new? So hopefully it's really, really fun for you to see in that manner. Then, of course, I love watercolor work, so I did a whole series of watercolor pieces using these Winston Newton watercolor set. And so I'm showing you a couple of those. This is an earlier version of my logo. You can notice actually that my logo has evolved over the years. So that's also, I thought you might find it interesting. So here are a whole bunch of, so I don't know about you, but I love to, from time to time, I love to do kind of a challenge. And so this was a 30-day watercolor challenge. And every day for 30 days, we did a new watercolor piece. And it was all flower-based. And so then, of course, I took pictures of all of them, and I uploaded those so you could see. And the watercolors that I'm using, it's a teeny tiny little travel set. It's kind of in the corner of one of the pictures there. And it's a very easy to travel with piece. I also wanted to show you some of the work that I love to do that is with a giant brush. So frequently, let's see, does this... Oh, I don't want to do that. I went to the wrong place. Hold on. I want to go click back over to I'm going to come back on screen because I screwed up where I was on that. I screwed up where I was over here, right? I wanted to be favorite art supplies here. Favorite art supplies. Here we go. Yeah. So this is also just a little animation that shows you some of the different art that I created with this really, really big brush. So you can see that that's a really, really big brush that creates really, really big strokes. And I kind of turn it into, I don't know, an imaginary flower, right? An imaginary flower. And then I also created the vases for it. And then I just created a really pretty kind of illustration with it that I signed on the bottom. But this is another example of a supply that I really love, which is to sort of push your comfort zone beyond using brushes that really have a fine point, and using something that is way more out of my comfort zone, for lack of a better description, right? So then I also just wanted to, this is another great example of these uni pins that I love from Mitsubishi. So you can see my sketchbook there, and I do a couple close-ups of some of the beautiful illustrations that I did there, some of the beautiful motifs. And the reason that I wanted to showcase this is you can tell in the drawings that I'm using a different nib size, right? So for some of the exterior lines, I'm using kind of one size nib, and then for the delicate details on the inside, I'm using a different, smaller nib size. And so you can elevate your drawing and your sketches and your doodles by varying the nib size. And so buying those sets of either 9 or 11 can really be helpful in that way. And then I wanted to also show that, so this is my table with my art supplies around me, and with this is a combination of watercolor and ink. So I was playing around with the combination of watercolor and ink. That is, those are the Molotow set of 11 that's there on the table, and absolutely love them. I love them because they're really, really dark. It gives you a very nice dark black, and I also love sometimes adding the ink to the watercolor at the end, because I think that I can then get a little bit more definition. Sometimes I am not a very talented watercolor artist, so I find sometimes that my watercolor just looks like blobs, and by adding the ink at the end, I can turn it into actually something that looks like leaves or flowers. And so I wanted to share that with you as well, because I thought that might be kind of a good pro tip. Here's like one of my favorite pictures of all time from my friend Kim Thompson-Steele, who comes to my studio from time to time to take pictures, both of me and of my supplies. And these are all my colored pencils. I must have 8 sets of colored pencils. I absolutely love colored pencils. I think these are the Caran d'Ache ones. I grew up in Paris, and so Caran d'Ache is actually it's a Swiss brand, I believe, but they're sold throughout Europe, and I love them. And then I also love to sometimes sketch my supplies. So tell me in the comments, have you ever actually drawn some of your supplies? So this is one of the sketches that I really love, because the watercolor, the supplies, you can see there's a Posca pen in there. There's also a fancy sort of Japanese lettering brush that I have. There's a white pen in there, which is great for when you want to add some white into, for example, your watercolor or your gouache. And it's in a jar that we have around the house. We love these olives. And so that's actually an olive jar, without the top, of course, but I basically replicated the shape of the jar with a little bit of kind of organic-y looking edges, but I put the label on it, right? I tried to duplicate the label, and anyway, I thought it was really, really fun. And sometimes when you don't have a better idea, you can look at the supplies that are around you and decide that you're going to draw them. And then I brought it into Adobe Illustrator and added all the color. So it was a black and white sketch, right? It was an ink sketch initially. I brought it into Adobe Illustrator, which you guys know I love and I use like every single day, and I teach. And then I added all the color to make it look exactly like the real supplies. Okay, so then what else did I talk about in here? Oh, then I talked about the fact that one of the things that's fun for you to have is like a touchstone. And what I mean by that is that as artists, we're usually, we're working in our studio, and there might be something that you just always love having around you that helps you be inspired. And that could be a candle, or that can be this beautiful picture. I love this picture, and the picture has a bunch of my supplies in it, mostly my brushes, but it's sitting on a stack. You can see there it's sitting near on the counter in the kitchen, and that's another beautiful image by my photographer Kim Thompson-Steele. And that's a gorgeous picture with that's on the kitchen counter looking out the window, that's right near the sink. And then it's also on a whole bunch of my notebooks that have surface designs on them, right, repeating patterns on those notebooks that it's sitting on in this image. But it's nice to have something that helps spark your creativity, to have that around you, right? And so I frequently will sit down with a candle, right? You can see in this image that I have a cup. I've got a bunch of different candles, and then I am sitting at either out here on this black desk that I have right now, or the table that you can see in the kitchen, and it helps me kind of, first of all, the candle is scented, and so it smells really good. And so that kind of puts me into the mood as well to be creative, right? So it's never too late to create. So my sweet friend Pauline will make sure that she puts the, URL for where you can find all of those goodies, right? So you can find all of those goodies at annafollettart.com. On the front page of annafollettart.com, scroll down and you'll see that I have a freebie, and that there are 3 freebies there. You're welcome to all of them, but the one I talked about today was the one that's all about art supplies, which I haven't talked about in a really long time. And then I dove deeper into how do I use those supplies in the blog. And that's where you see some of those fun animations and some of the images and examples of the different pieces of art that I've created with my favorite art supplies. And the reason that I thought this was important to talk about, and I thought it would be interesting for you, is because I also do, of course, wrapping paper and repeating patterns that you can see. This is my last holiday collection from last Christmas. And then I'm wearing, I'm always wearing one of my own shirts. This is one of my favorites that actually has, you guys saw this sprig. This sprig was in one of those images when I was showing you my sketchbook. This medallion I created using the circle tool and the segment tools in Adobe Illustrator. But the sprig I hand drew, and it was one of the examples in that sketchbook that you just saw. So I have taken longer than I normally do because, hey, the technology didn't really work exactly the way it's supposed to, but we're still having fun, right? We are still having fun, and I absolutely love to meet with you every Wednesday to chat about art, creativity, and surface pattern design. And I hope that you will go grab my list of supplies. And so Lisa Schultz Quimby, first of all, it's fabulous to see you. And I don't think I can bring your comment up, but I see your comment. I'm looking down at my phone, so I can totally see your comment. And so I actually don't sew. Truth be told, I make all of my beautiful patterns for fabric or for wrapping paper or a variety of other products. But then I take them, listen to this. So, because you might be able to do this too, Lisa. I have a dry cleaners near me, and they have a sewing person on staff, a seamstress on staff. And so I just took one of my favorite shirts down to her, and then a bolt of my fabric, and said, "Can you replicate this shirt, this style of shirt, but use my fabric?" And so she made it for me, and I think I have about 9. Right? Hello, Maria Alzanier. So Maria Alzanier, you and I need to talk. There's some very exciting things happening between me and Maria Alzanier in July, and July is like next week. So hopefully everything's going really, really super well on your side, Maria Alzanier, and everything is totally cool over here in California. And congratulations on all of your amazing sales at Berg Week. Maria's in the south of Sweden, and she just had a spectacular event. It's a annual event in her small town in the southern part of Sweden, and it's Berg Week, and she has a beautiful retail store and sells all of the most amazing products, including gorgeous linen dresses, and her repeating patterns also were on pillows. You had a beautiful picture of a pillow that I saw on your Instagram account. It was like, oh, it's the same incredibly beautiful repeating pattern that you then put also on the linen dress. So beautiful. Oh, so beautiful. So thank you. And you can all find my list of supplies by just going to annafollettart.com and just scroll down on the front page, or there's a clickable link that my sweet community manager and best friend in Wales, Pauline Riley, has put into the comments for you. Okay, and then, hey, maybe if I'm out here next Wednesday, which I will be, it's the day before the 4th of July, but I'll be here next Wednesday, maybe I'll get the tech to work a little bit better. But it was still okay, right? It totally worked. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I so appreciate you joining me. And I always like to say in closing that I am Anna Follett. And it's never too late to create. Bye for now. And I will see you next week. Okay?